All right, it is 7:02 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Got an echo. While this meeting is being held in person in consideration of ongoing COVID-19 health concerns, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to participate virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audrey, would you please call the roll?
Boltinghouse.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Loudoun.
Here.
Inman. Kring.
Here.
Chosick.
Here.
Rihard.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we have several special presentations this evening. The first is recognition of former Mayor Appletoft and council members R.C. Rothrock and Nick Schlossmacher for their service to the city. Between severe weather and Ms. Smith's unruly appendix, we didn't get to have our planned presentations at our December council meeting. Ms. Smith, will you please share your comments?
Seeing the chief and his audiovisual skills this evening. It's been a long wait for us to all be able to get back together comfortably and in person to say a special thank you to the mayor and council who missed out on this important moment back in December. So if we think back to December 15th of 2021, it was definitely a whirlwind of a day, literally. Between the severe weather and the 60-mile-an-hour winds, and an appendicitis attack that sent me to the operating room, we resulted in having to focus on the necessities of the meeting that night rather than the niceties we had planned for the evening. Definitely one for the record books, but should we have expected anything less after nearly 2 years of change and chaos in dealing with this pandemic? However, reflective or fitting the circumstances might have been a few months ago, there was no way we were going to let years of dedicated service and sacrifice go unrecognized. So we're back tonight to be able to share that. Selfishly, I was glad that things got postponed because it's important for me to be able to share my thoughts and memories with our outgoing elected officials. We all know when we get into this business of being elected officials that turnover and change is all part of the process. But as we have all also experienced, the time that we spend together and the shared experiences make us all part of the same mission family. And saying goodbye to family members is never an easy thing. So I apologize to Ron, Nick, and RC for having to wait, but I'm grateful for the opportunity for a do-over so I can be here in person. First, we were looking forward to having all three, Ron, Nick, and RC with us tonight, but RC reached out yesterday to say she couldn't be here. They had to reschedule little Brad's birthday party to this evening to have all their family members there. And despite the fact that she's not here for a reason that sums up exactly who she is and what she's about, I do want to take the opportunity to recognize her service. She was originally elected to the council in 2014 to represent Ward 2, and RC spent the early days as a quiet listener and learner. I think it's fair to say she had some people guessing about who she would be or what interests she might represent, but from the very beginning, she proved that she would take in all of the information and make up her own mind. It was fun to see her find and express her voice in many different ways. She was a cheerleader to the core in many respects. She loved to share the successes of our mission businesses, particularly our small businesses. She frequently brought an or underrepresented perspective to the conversation, and she was, beyond a doubt, a strong supporter of staff throughout the organization. We could also always count on RC to interject a little fun into city activities and to capture them in a selfie. I'm still not sure how she managed some of the camera angles that she did. She kept Emily and I guessing on many occasions, but she was always gracious to share them and help document all things mission. So even though you're not here, thank you, RC. Your service and commitment to mission is sincerely appreciated. And we hope you know that even though you couldn't join us this evening, we wish you well in all your future endeavors. So Mr. Schlossmacher, you're next. You want to join me up here? Thank you for taking the time. I'm glad your travel schedule allowed you to be with us tonight. I remember first meeting Nick when he campaigned for his council seat and was very vocal in his desire to keep a Walmart out of the Gateway project. Ever since securing that seat in 2016, we were able to rely on Nick to provide an independent and different perspective on many issues. Never too shy to play devil's advocate or to challenge both his fellow council members and staff to look at an issue or a problem through a different lens. We appreciated that. Practical, direct feedback was something we could always count on from you. So thank you. And what do we remember Nick for on the non-business side of his role as a council member? I don't know about you, but I'll always think of two things: bulldogs and bow ties. What I came to appreciate is two passions: dogs and fashion. Now, I think Fiorella may have had something to do with the fashion part and his dapper dress, but it was all Nick in advocating right up into his final days on the council for support of the dog park and mission, a torch I know many of your former council members are happy to carry forward. Our loss was definitely Bazer's gain, regardless of the trick you played on me when you announced that you were leaving. But we hope you won't be a stranger to mission. It was a pleasure serving alongside of you all these years, and I would like to present you with this plaque in recognition of your service on the council from April of 2016 through December of 2021. Would you like to say, make a few remarks or?
Sure.
Okay.
It's great to see everybody. It's interesting being back on this side of the aisle and not sitting back there. I just want to say good luck to everyone. You know, it's a big deal here to continue to run things with the city of Mission. I know you guys will do great. A lot of great stuff in store. Don't be a stranger. Come out and visit us in Baser sometime. Just call me first and make sure I'm in town, because I basically haven't been home the last few months. So it's been a pretty exciting whirlwind, but I'm sure we'll be back around. Some of my favorite restaurants here, and I know my wife will probably drag me to some stores over here eventually. So we'll see everybody. And just thanks again for serving. Thanks to the people of Mission for giving me the opportunity to serve, and wish you guys all the best in the future. Thanks.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, I'd like to say a few words about our former mayor, Ron Appletoft. Would you care to, I know you don't want to, but will you please join me up here? I know you're absolutely comfortable with public office, having served as a council member in Countryside and in Mission many years before coming back to run to be elected to the Ward 4 seat in 2016. In fact, Mayor Appletoft was on my interview panel when I was selected to be the finance director in Mission back in 2005. So long storied history. After a long and successful career at Water One, you were ready to jump back into public service in this community that you care so deeply about. First as a council member and then running for mayor and being elected to that seat in 2018. Although you were familiar with public service, I think even you were a little surprised at the difference between the role of mayor and council member. I remember many of our conversations in the early days of your transition as you thought through how you wanted to approach your time as Mission's mayor and what you wanted to accomplish. You may not have been a shout it from the rooftop kind of mayor, but there are a lot of things that I had the pleasure and privilege of seeing and hearing from you as our relationship evolved. Things that I think are important to share for those who didn't have the benefit of talking with you and seeing you nearly every day for 4 years. This part of my comments may make you a little uncomfortable, but it's important for me to let you know publicly the impact I think you had during your tenure as mayor. You brought a unique view to the office, having served so many years as a staff member on an elected board, and that impacted your leadership style. You pushed staff hard. You challenged our assumptions, you made us justify our recommendations, and you made us and the city a better place because of it. And most of those things nobody ever saw. They happened outside of public meetings, and so many will never appreciate the influence that you had on so many different policies, programs, and services that will impact Mission and our residents well into the future. Even more important to me is the fact that you challenged me to be a better city administrator, all the while making sure I knew I could count on your support that was always also given to your fellow council members, our volunteers, and staff throughout the organization. That did not go unnoticed or unappreciated. Before I close out my remarks about Ron, I do want to say a special thank you to Debbie. So Debbie, if you'll come join us, please. I know, just indulge me tonight. I know Debbie, I know that being the spouse of any elected official, but especially the mayor, can be a difficult task. And Debbie was very supportive at the time you had to spend away from home. And that can be a lot for a spouse or significant other to take on. We want you to know that we appreciate the sacrifices that you made to help Ron be successful. Thank you. Thank you for that and for sharing him with us. So by this point, you're all probably wishing I had another appendix that needed to come out. And I apologize for being a little long-winded, but I think it's important to spend the time to recognize the service of our colleagues and our friends. So Mayor, as my husband reminds me, once a mayor, always a mayor. So I remember in the early days, as I would email you, you'd say, don't call me mayor in the email, just call me Ron. In closing out tonight, I want to highlight one of your sayings that sticks out most from our conversations over the last 4 years. I don't think there was a week that went by when you didn't articulate your strong desire to be involved with projects or things where you felt you added value. And I know I speak confidently for the staff, the council, and the members of our community when I say, thank you, Mayor Appletofft, you added value. And so I would like to present. And then we have another photo of you in your favorite park, and then just a small appreciation for your service. Anything you want to say?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I've got a whole bunch of stuff. How much time do I have? Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm very proud to have been the mayor of Mission, also to serve on council and the planning commission. My 4 years as mayor was a very trying and unique period of time. As I was talking to someone in the audience, things occurred that nobody had been trained for or knew how to handle, but your staff, they pulled us through those times. So I'm really appreciative to the staff of stepping up and handling unprecedented times. I want to say it was an honor to serve the residents of Mission and to serve with such an outstanding staff. As an elected official, we move in and out of our roles. We come and go, except for Debbie, she comes and stays. But we move in and out, but staff is the constant. They're here, they greet and orient new council members. They provide the professional knowledge, they provide the historical perspective, and then they're here to congratulate the outgoing public officials. But staff are the ones that's the rock of this community. I have been in public service for almost 40 years and have sat on both sides. As Laura mentioned, I've been a staff member for an elected board for most of my career and have sat on the other side of being the elected official. And it gives you a unique perspective. And the Mission City staff is as good as any staff that I've encountered. I think that we don't appreciate them enough and stop and reflect on what they provide us for our community. These are professionals who are passionate about serving our community. Thank you to Mission for allowing me to serve. Thank you.
Laura, does that conclude your part of the presentation?
My presentation, thank you.
All right, I would also invite if there's a member of council that would like to make a comment on this item. Please feel free. Yeah, Debbie?
I want to thank all three of the people that were recognized this evening. They've made our council more diverse, more insightful, and more blended in the community at large. I think Ron played a pivotal role in the finance element that goes with our city. He knew facets of finance that go so far back and that kind of widen our ability to make wiser decisions based on fiscal policy and using business models throughout his mayor time. I think Nick brought a perspective on not only the dog park, but kind of balanced everything out with looking truly at what the community at large may need and what people wanted. He spoke a lot based on what his constituents had said to him. And I think he brought that to the council. I think was beneficial. RC brought a youth perspective, if you will. She went to school with my youngest son. So I think the perspective she brought will be beneficial to the community and the council and the city at large for a long time. I think those three people brought such breadth and such knowledge and such energy. I think we'll all be better for it and have a better community as a result of their leadership. Thanks.
All right. Well, on behalf of the council, I would like to thank Mayor Appletoft and council members Rothrock and Schlossmacher for their dedication and service to our community. There's a lot of time, effort, and energy that goes into serving an elected position, and it's important to recognize the hard work and important decisions that they have all been a part of over the years to help make Mission the great community that it is. And I just wanted to add for Ron to feel confident that we're going to keep carrying the infrastructure baton and keep working on our roads and our stormwater, and you made great progress on that, and we'll make sure to keep it up. Thank you all for your service. All right, our next presentation, which was to be the Arbor Day poster contest winners from Rushton Elementary, has been postponed to the May 18th meeting. But we do have another presentation, which is the Tree City. Are we going? We're jumping in order. Sorry.
Okay, we'll do that later.
I think we maybe got some kiddos waiting patiently in back for us. So starting last year in honor of the city's 70th birthday, Mission hosted our first If I Were Mayor poster contest. Students in grades K through 6 were asked to think about what it means to be a city leader and put their ideas on a poster. Last year's submissions were so creative and thoughtful that we decided to continue the contest annually. We are very proud of each artist and the kindness and compassion they have demonstrated through their posters. The winners for each grade level will be featured in the upcoming issue of the Mission magazine, and tonight we're honored to recognize them in person. Ms. Smith, will you please introduce our winners and present them with their gift cards?
Absolutely. I would invite all of our poster contest winners who are here to please come join us at the front of the room. We're missing 2, but we've got a good showing. They each, if you guys want to stand up. One of my favorite parts of city council meetings is always when we get to take time to recognize and have special presentations. It's great, feel-good way to start our meetings. And tonight, as the mayor said, we're pleased to be able to congratulate the winners of the 2022 If I Were Mayor poster contest winners, which was open to Mission students in grades K through 6. So I'm going to introduce each one of them to you, or those that are here, and tell you a little bit about their posters. We don't have our kindergarten entrant. So Lana was the youngest entrant in our contest, and her poster recognizes both the damaging effects of climate change and the impacts humans have on wildlife. And she wants to ensure that we have safe and sustainable places for all. So what a great, thoughtful entry we have there. Then next, our first grade winner is George, who's on the far end. As Mission's mayor, George would work to make Mission a safe place where the bad people ran away. But along with his public safety focus, he has a very deep compassion for animals, and he would give a cat a crown. I think he and his brother were both lobbying Mom the day we took photos to get a cat. Have you made any progress on that? No? Okay. Our second grade winner is a sister to our kindergartner, Cora, a second grader. She's a winner 2 years in a row. Cora won last year as a first grader. Her 22 poster focuses on equity, both racial and gender equity. And as mayor, she would work to build a safe and welcoming environment everywhere for everyone, including school and at play. Henry, brother to George, is our third grade winner. Henry has lots of ideas, as you can see from his poster, and a big vision for developing our city, including adding a trolley line, a mall, a bowling alley, a 5-star hotel, nothing less, an office and residential tower, which I thought was very insightful as we were talking about his poster a couple of weeks ago, a hospital and a cat shop. And he'd be sure to bring back the Runza restaurant, which was one of his favorites. So did you get to have, you were leaving to go to Omaha, I think, right? Or, yeah, did you get to have your Runza on your trip? Okay, good. Okay, then we didn't have any entries in the fourth grade, at the fourth grade level. Then we have Henry, who is our fifth grade winner. As mayor, Henry would focus on building accessible playgrounds throughout Mission so that kids of all abilities can enjoy the park. He sees this inclusivity as a way to make our city better, and we couldn't agree more. And then Emery is our sixth grade winner. Emery also has a long list of things he would bring to Mission as mayor, including a mural in downtown Mission, a class where teens could learn to do taxes. If you get that organized, I'm going to send my taxes your way. A dog park, a bathroom and waterworks park, and a way to get pet adoption ads spread all over town. It's an aggressive agenda, but really full of great ideas. So congratulations to each of you. Thank you for taking the time to submit such thoughtful entries. And as the mayor said, you'll be featured in the next issue of the Mission magazine, which is in production right now. So I would invite the mayor to come join me. We'll actually probably have you guys.
All right, so next up, we have a series of proclamations. Our first proclamation is for designates April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in an effort to bring awareness that children have a right to be safe and to be provided an opportunity to thrive, learn, and grow. It is critical that we come together as partners so that the voices of our children are heard by all, and that as a community, we are extending a helping hand to children and families in need. We thank the many child advocates, including teachers, nurses, and social workers that work tirelessly every day, helping children and ensuring their bright and healthy futures. Next up, I think now it's your turn, Pin, but the next proclamation tonight is our annual Arbor Day Proclamation. This year, Arbor Day will be celebrated on Friday, April 29th. I'd like to present this proclamation to Mr. Almany and our Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission and ask Penn to give us an update on Arbor Day activities. And I believe this will also include Tree City USA information as well.
Correct. We've got a poster contest meeting where we will reveal first, second, and third place Rushton Elementary poster contest participants. That is going to happen next week. So we did not want to leak that information too early. We also have Arbor Day coming up next Friday, the 29th. So pretty busy week. And then, of course, we have Missions Cleanup event in the same month where we try to focus all of our efforts and attention on green canopies and making Mission a little bit more beautiful. I wanted to also share that Mission applies for the Tree City USA annually, and we've won it for the 20th year, which is pretty exciting. It's a pretty big milestone, so congratulations to everyone who's come before me and kind of did all the heavy lifting. However, there is a higher level of standard called the Growth Award, and it's broken down into 5 categories: budgeting, planning, inventorying, action, and collaboration. And this recognizes communities who strive for higher levels of tree care through increased commitment to education, programming, and resources to urban tree canopies. So happy to announce that we are the very first year Growth Award winner here in Mission. Congratulations, Mission.
Thank you, Penn. And our last proclamation recognizes Saturday, May 21st as Kids to Parks Day. This day empowers families to embrace what they can do outdoors at America's parks, public lands, and waters while encouraging kids to lead a more active lifestyle. This is a great opportunity to promote discovery and exploration while enjoying outdoor activities, as well as for us to promote the value and amenities of all of our parks here in Mission. Thanks to our Parks and Recreation Department, they work hard throughout the year to promote the benefits and rewards of an active and outdoor lifestyle. That is the end of our presentations and proclamations. Next up would be notes and bonds. We do not have any items related to the issuance of notes or bonds this evening, so we will move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda has 3 items tonight. Our council committees met on April 6th and fully discussed each of these items. The committees agreed that the items listed on our consent agenda are routine enough to be considered under a single motion. If a council member or member of the public would like an item removed from the consent agenda, they may request that at this time. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4C.
Second.
Any discussion? Audrey, please call roll.
Davis. Loudon.
Aye.
Rihard.
I abstain from the minutes from the March 9th. Is that this? that's part of
Yeah.
this? Yeah, but I to the other pieces. So, yeah.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman. Crane.
Aye.
Josie. Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, next up is public comments. If any members of the public would like to make a comment on items that are not included on our agenda tonight, now would be the time to do so. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comments verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are a part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll go into our action items. First, we have 2 items brought forward from the Planning Commission. The first is a special use permit and final plat for Bickford at Mission Springs. Mr. Scott, will you please provide your report? Or, oh, it's actually Carrie.
Okay. First, I present case 2205, special use permit for Bickford at Mission Springs. The subject property is at 5350 West 61st Place. It's an assisted living and memory care facility north of Shawnee Mission Parkway between 61st Place and Rock Creek Lane, just east of Knoll. Primary vehicular ingress and egress is on 61st Place with a fire access road and gate on the east at Rock Creek Lane. There's a utility access road that connects to the northwest corner of the parking lot that leads to the back of the property and city-owned property for utility access. There are two buildings on the site connected by an elevated walkway. Building 1, a 2-story structure, was erected in 1996. And Building 2, a 3-story structure, was erected in 1997. A small channeled creek that runs under 61st Place and empties into Rock Creek to the north encroaches onto the western edge of the property about 60 feet to the southwest corner during the 100-year flood events, which comes within about 26 feet of the most southern edge of Building 2. Habitable structures are not in the 100-year floodplain. Property zone CPO, planned office building district. It's adjacent to zones CPO, CP1, and R1, which include Countryside Christian Church and the office buildings on the west, and is bordered by a residential neighborhood to the north and east. The property is well maintained, and the facility is a well-established operation that's an asset to the community and surrounding area. It's screened from adjacent residential office and religious institutions by extensive tree cover, and it's currently Mission's only assisted living facility with skilled nursing capacity. In November 1995, prior to construction of the first building, the city approved a special use permit under Ordinance 927 for the property to be used as an assisted living facility. Assisted living facilities are not listed as a permitted use in CPO. However, assisted living and memory care facilities may operate in any zoning district with a special use permit. Future land use map in the comprehensive plan also designates this property as medium density residential. In January 2022, this year, a Bickford employee contacted city staff and requested verification that the property did not have any zoning or code violations as the property was being sold. The employee shared a letter drafted by planning staff in November 2011, which confirmed the CPO zoning code and special use permit granted by Ordinance 927. And current planning staff reviewed the ordinance and discovered the special use permit had expired in November of 2020. Staff also discovered that the property had not been platted at the time of construction. The property has remained unplatted since before it was developed, and the city requested that the property owner record a final plat with the Johnson County Register of Deeds. The preliminary plat and final plat will be addressed further in 2206 next. Under Article 3, special use permits in the City of Mission Municipal Code, the following stipulations apply. Nursing homes are allowed in all districts, and the criteria for applications under Section 440, 140, subsection E are as follows. The character of the neighborhood and extent that the use would be in harmony with nearby properties, the extent to which approval would detrimentally affect nearby properties, relative benefit to public welfare by retaining applicable restrictions compared to the destruction of the value of the property or hardship to the owner with denying the request. The comprehensive plan, the extent to which utilities and public services are adequate, the extent that the use creates excessive pollution or environmental harm, where there is a need for the use in the community, the economic impact on the community, and the ability for the applicant to satisfy any requirements imposed, along with the recommendation of city staff. It's staff's interpretation that a special use permit renewal for the continued use of the property as an assisted living facility meets all applicable criteria in Article 3, Section 440-140. The facility and its surrounding property is harmonious with nearby properties and does not detrimentally affect public health or property values. The use is consistent with the comprehensive plan as medium density residential adjacent to office, low density residential, and public uses as part of encouraged mixed use and has adequate access to utilities and public services. The assisted living facility is a benefit to public welfare, and denying the application could impose a hardship to the property owner. Under Section 440-210 of the city's municipal code, special use permits may be for a specified time period or continual, except under the following. If use is discontinued by a period of time for more than 6 months, the special use permit shall expire, and the revocation of a special use permit may be granted if any of the following conditions are met: non-compliance with any applicable requirement, non-compliance with any special conditions imposed at the time of approval, violation of any provisions of the code, where conditions of the neighborhood have changed to the extent that the approval would be unwarranted, and violation of any state or federal law, or regulation. It's staff's interpretation that a special use permit renewal for the continued use of the property as an assisted living facility does not meet any of the stipulations for revocation and therefore would likewise not meet the stipulations for application denial. The property has been used continuously as an assisted living facility since it was developed in 1996, and the property has not in the past, nor is it currently in violation of local, state, or federal regulations. Staff recommends that the city council approve case 2205 with the following conditions of approval. The special use permit shall be permanent until such time as the use of the facility changes. The permit shall become void if the facility is vacant for 6 months or more. The facility shall remain compliant with all local, state, and federal laws and regulations, including proper licensing to operate as an assisted living facility and provide copies to the city. The applicant shall provide the city of Mission with any inspection reports from the state of Kansas and shall provide documentation of all license renewals. And the fire ingress and egress access from the west at 61st Place and from the northeast at the drive access to Rock Creek Lane shall remain and be maintained in adequate condition that fire apparatus has sufficient clearance for entry onto and throughout the property. Fire department access via the northeast fire access drive gate shall be granted at all times. All screening and buffers to surrounding properties, including all landscaping elements, are maintained by the property owner or the owner's agent. And a final plat will be approved by the Planning Commission and City Council and recorded with the Johnson County Register of Deeds within 3 months of receiving the special use permit. And that's all I have for 2205.
All right, do we have any questions from council on this report? And if not, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council approve the ordinance authoring a special use permit for the location at 5350 West 61st Place in the city of Mission to be utilized as a nursing home facility, subject to the conditions and requirements outlined in the ordinance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, Audrey, please call roll.
Rihard.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Inman. Kring.
Aye.
Davis. Loudon.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next is case 2206, Bickford at Mission Springs preliminary and final plat. Same place as case number 2205. Let's see, the property has remained unplatted since before it was developed. The city requested that preliminary and final plat be submitted with the special use permit application. If approved, the final plat will be recorded with the Johnson County Register of Deeds. Current owner, NHI Bickford Real Estate LLC, is selling the property to TL Acquisition LLC based in New York, which plans to continue operations as an assisted living and memory care facility. The sale of the property to new ownership is contingent upon the approval of the plat and special use permit to continue existing operations. All submission requirements under 44220 for the submission of preliminary plats has been satisfied. And all of the requirements for 44250 for final plats have also been satisfied. Approval of the final plat shall require the affirmative vote of majority of the membership of the city council. The preliminary and final plats with this application consist of 1 lot and 2 tracts. The right of way, there's an existing 25-foot right of way on the northern portion of the property. It shall remain as access. Emily, could you pull up the plat for me? Sorry, I should have asked for that earlier. The existing 25-foot right-of-way on the northern portion of the property shall remain as access for road purposes if the city plans road connection from 61st Street to Rock Creek Lane in the future. The easements proposed in the plat area are areas dedicated to the city and or the responsible agencies for access to construct and or repair public utilities such as stormwater, sanitary sewer, electrical, and other utilities. Zone CPO of the Mission Municipal Code does not contain lot area restrictions, and under 455-100 of the Municipal Code, a typical subdivision at the time of an original plat shall exercise good design and layout, and that good planning practices are followed. Efficient use of land and natural assets such as trees and topography shall be retained wherever practical. The above dimensions and designations are in accordance with the ordinances set forth in the Mission Municipal Code. Staff recommends the following conditions of approval: that access easement shall be dedicated in the final plat for ingress egress at the northeast corner of the property as secondary emergency access. And this should be submitted as a revision to staff. I'm sorry, that was already in the planning commission. So that was submitted to staff in the final version for tonight. That's all I have for 2206.
Any questions on this piece? I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt a resolution approving the final plat of Bickford at Mission Springs, Lot 1, and accepting right-of-way, access, and drainage easements within said plat as those of the city of Mission to hold in perpetuity.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
I have one comment.
Yes, Debbie?
Carrie, could you give clarification again about this property and the flood, the relationship with this property and the floodplain?
It is none of the habitable structures, none of the actual structures are in the 100-year floodplain.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further comment, I would entertain, or no, Audrey, call for the roll. Sorry.
Hinman. Rihard.
Aye.
Davis. Thomas.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Tozig.
Aye.
Loudon.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, next we have the Mohawk Park site improvements. Ms. Smith, will you please provide your report?
Yes, thank you. So this is the second item coming forward from the Planning Commission in their March meeting. And this is site plan and site improvements for Mohawk Park. Mohawk Park is a neighborhood park at the northeast corner of 67th and Lamar, approximately 7.8 acres in size. The site was purchased from the Shawnee Mission School District in 2003. The city demolished the former Mohawk Elementary School building on the site, and the only improvements that have been made since that time have been a resurfacing of the trail. All of the parking lot, the play structure, and any other site amenities, if one could call them that, were present when the school was present. The most significant user group currently of the park on a regular basis is the Northeast United Soccer Club with their fall and spring soccer leagues for the younger children. And the council is familiar with the fact that in late 2019, we launched a comprehensive conceptual park planning process, recognizing the upcoming renewal of the Parks and Recreation sales tax, which will expire in March of 2023, and a desire for a focus and emphasis on outdoor park improvements in particular. Mohawk Park, both in our park master plan and through the work of the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission was, and specifically the addition of restrooms in Mohawk Park was the #1 priority for an outdoor park improvement. We went through, slowed by COVID somewhat, but we went through a very extensive public input process. And in looking at the amenities that were desired in the site, and what's shown on the screen is the kind of the final concept drawing, which I'll come back to in a moment, which included an expansion of the trail to basically serve the entire perimeter of the park, the restrooms, a pavilion, a new playground structure, basketball/pickleball courts, new parking, and natural landscaping features. But based on the order of magnitude costs for the overall development of the park, we recognized that it was going to take a phased approach to get all of these accomplished, particularly at the time that this was happening and with uncertainty with the renewal of the Parks and Recreation sales tax. You'll recall we discussed this at length at our committee meeting earlier this month. We shared with you at that time that, as you'll recall, the Planning Commission varied and made a recommendation that was quite honestly dramatically different than that which was proposed in the plan and included in the staff report and recommendations. As we looked at that and considered that, we realized that I think we as staff failed to provide the Planning Commission at their meeting with the full picture of the full build out of the park and specifically the phased approach, although there was some limited conversation around excuse me, around phasing as reflected in the planning commission minutes. And I think it's important, it was the end of a long meeting. I think there were a variety of things that contributed to that, but I think it's important that staff own that responsibility and be transparent about that in this process. Following the planning commission recommendation, we reached out to GBA, our traffic engineers, because really almost all of the concerns expressed by the planning commission centered around traffic issues, and particularly an interaction with pedestrians or bicyclists on the trail and vehicles. Again, without having seen the benefit of this full concept plan, there wasn't a conversation at the planning commission level to say, when we achieve full build out of this park, that same conflict would exist if the parking lot remained in its current location on the west side of the park. So just to kind of recap some of the rationale for the move of the parking lot. Find that here. The current parking lot bisects usable open turf, which limits programming layouts and opportunities for us. Moving the parking lot, as we looked at options for relocation of the parking lot, pushing it to the north would move it up against residential properties with no significant buffer. So no street, no additional green space. Moving the parking lot to the south pushes it against the best visual corner of the park and creates a very long winding path to all the other centralized amenities, the restrooms, the shelter facility. Moving the parking entrance closer to the Lamar and moves the parking entrance closer to the Lamar and 67th intersection, which we believe is something that the traffic engineers would have cautioned against or recommended against. The southern frontage gives more options for spacing and fitting that parking lot in while still providing the street and some additional buffer from the neighbors to the south. The parking lot on the south side helps provide easier access to the shelter, which is desirable when people are having events, not having to drag coolers or other things a long distance from their cars. The southern parking lot also allows the pavilion to overlook the turf and provides opportunities for movies in the park or really just a better sort of experience of that green space. This allows us to centralize all of the active amenities for the park. One of the things that was very important to the neighbors was that they wanted any active areas of the park pulled in as close to the center of the park as possible. And then again, the proposed south parking lot puts a single access drive in line with Beverly Street, which is preferred over something mid-block. So you'll see that it aligns with an existing street. So it minimizes the conflicts with driveway access. So the full engineer's report was included in your packet for this evening's meeting. You'll see they didn't make a specific recommendation of one location over the other. They really did, I think, a good job of highlighting the differences and or similarities for either location of the park, but did note that with full build out to the final concept, that same interaction with pedestrians and vehicles would exist, something that occurs very frequently in a park setting and they believe can be mitigated or minimized with some other strategies. We also talked so we talked at the committee meeting then about what are the council's options when you have a recommendation that comes forward from the planning commission. And as we look at this final concept and how it has been used to date and sort of where we are in the process, I wanted to touch on a couple of other things. So we've used this concept plan, the full concept plan, to secure currently almost $400,000 in land and water conservation grant funds. Potentially we'll be bringing back a recommendation to apply for a second round of grant funds to you all next month. A changing of that concept could potentially jeopardize those grant funds. This concept was reviewed by the council and a design contract was awarded based on this design in November of 2021 with a phased approach. The council also allocated additional funding in the 2022 budget to complete through phase 1B to ensure that we got the full pad for the pavilion and the restroom accomplished in the first phase. As we looked at and worked with the architects and the planners in developing the final costs, we recommended that we add the relocation of the parking lot as a bid alternate. And so if the funding would allow, we would make that parking lot move at this time, because if you look at and consider the build out of the pavilion and the restrooms, if we leave the parking lot where it is, you're basically in the pavilion looking at the parking lot, probably stepping off the steps and just a few more steps to reach that parking lot. We are looking to have a large scale improvement underway when we pursue our sales tax renewal in September of this year. And as I mentioned, we're also exploring opportunities for additional grant funding. So the Planning Commission's recommendation, as you'll recall, included leaving the parking lot in its current location. Sorry. As well as adding crosswalks at the 67th and Lamar intersection. The Planning Commission also had not seen, or we did not have the report of the traffic engineer at the time that they considered this. So the options for the council include approval of the Planning Commission recommendation as is. You have the option to remand a recommendation of the Planning Commission back to them for reconsideration. And if you were to remand an issue back, you want to always send it back with specific recommendations about the things to be reconsidered, or you have the opportunity to override a Planning Commission recommendation, which takes a 2/3 majority vote of the city council. And we talked at length at the committee meeting about the pros and cons of, I think, all of those approaches. And certainly either a remand or a potential override of a Planning Commission recommendation is not something that we take lightly. I think it was Councilmember Boltinghouse who, stated at the committee meeting that it's a significant action, but it's one that is available to a council, and one that I think is worth considering in this case. We talked, and I did want to provide some clarification. Last week, we talked about kind of timing of the park improvements, because originally we have this targeted for a groundbreaking in July. And so I think Councilmember Davis asked the question about what sort of delay, and I mentioned a 1-week delay. That's accurate in terms of bidding. And then Director Almany reminded me after the meeting that although it is a 1-week delay on the front end in terms of bidding, that pushes us past a time to be able to receive the bids, evaluate the bids, and get them in front of you at a June committee meeting. So although it is only 1 week on the front end, it creates almost a two-month delay on the back end to get a contract awarded. So with all of those factors in mind, I think, again, it's the first time I've done this in my tenure, but it is the staff's recommendation that the council consider overriding the recommendation of the Planning Commission in this instance, leaving the parking lot in its current location, but adding some additional conditions or stipulations. And that would be to install the crosswalks at 67th and Lamar, and to add another crosswalk at the intersection of Beverly and 67th. Both of those would be in accordance with the recommendations of the traffic engineer, and I think are very respectful of the concerns raised by the Planning Commission and reflected in the minutes of their meeting. Regardless of the council's decision, override or remand, I will be going to the Planning Commission this coming Monday and making a presentation on not only the Mohawk Park Plan and the pieces that didn't get presented to them at their March meeting, but also the overall conceptual park planning process and where this fits in that big vision. So I will stop there and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions for Laura. We'll go Hillary, then Debbie.
Thank you, Laura. That was really helpful. You mentioned you're going to present on Monday.
Yes.
Has there been any other communication with the Planning Commission about, the action that we'll be taking tonight?
We haven't because I don't know what that action is. And
Or
s-
that we would be potentially taking an action that, wouldn't be in line with what they recommended. I'm just wondering what's been communicated to them since our committee meeting.
we have not communicated with them, and let me explain a little bit why. So you all know that you have separate roles in both sort of quasi judicial in these cases. So until I know the action specifically that the council takes, I don't believe it's appropriate to go back and speculate with the planning commission about what may be done. Because I think that then there creates the potential for some back channel communication or some other things that could occur. So we have not communicated specifically with the planning commission about the council's discussion on April 6th or whatever that committee meeting date was.
Debbie?
I just need clarification on option 1. When it talks about the crosswalk be installed east of the new parking lot, is that the parking lot that was proposed by the planning commission on the west side or the
No.
current one on the south side?
It's the parking lot that's shown here.
Okay, when I saw new, I thought it's just going to be revamped, I guess, where it currently exists. Is that correct? What the proposal is from the staff?
No, the proposal for the staff is to relocate the parking lot to what's shown here on this final concept drawing. And align the entrance and exit to that parking lot with Beverly Street across 67th Street.
In order to achieve alignment with that staff recommendation, council would need to override the planning
Yes.
commission, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Ken?
I have a question and a comment. The question has to do with the recommendation that we also have a crosswalk at Horton, just west of the entrance of Horton onto 67th. Has that been considered also as a possibility then?
It has not yet specifically. One of the things that we heard in public comment through the process, and we have not moved to a final design, is that parking along Horton. And so at that time in phase 2, when we come back and address that parking, we'll certainly refer back to that engineer's recommendation or ask them to look at it again for any additional safety considerations that might be offered.
During the committee meeting, I was one of the individuals that brought up a devil's advocate comment. One of the concerns I have is that the process here is somewhat interrupted. In other words, there was not full information granted to the planning commission. They didn't have the privilege of having the traffic report that was done. And today I had a chance to talk with Laura about this and my concern. I struggled over this particular decision because in my view, the proper thing in terms of process would be to remand it to the planning commission, allow them to have the full information, have the traffic report, as well as our comments in regards to direction. My personal view is that I agree with what the end result is, but I was concerned about the process. I believe that I would have redirected this back to the planning commission for them to strike the move of the parking lot and go with our original recommendation that we have the parking lot where it's situated. Upon consideration of the time frame, the possible loss of our grant, I believe that it's appropriate at this time for us to go ahead and override, knowing that the planning commission is going to be provided with information in terms of why this decision is made. In general, I think we have adopted most of the other recommendations in terms of the crosswalks. The only thing that we are really rejecting, in my mind, is the move of the parking lot to the left, to the west side of the park. And I don't think that our council will look any different upon that particular element. So with that assurance and the plan to speak with the planning commission, I am supportive of a motion to override the planning commission at this time. Thank you.
Laura, I had one comment to piggyback off what Ken said, talking about Horton. We also had discussions, again, to perhaps be further discussed in phase 2 about extending the path all the way to the corner as well, to continue that path so that it doesn't end kind of mid-block. That was another discussion. And then just to clarify for those who might not have read the full packet but are following along, that when we're talking about pedestrian interactions, being a potential concern at both issues that can be mitigated by these traffic measures we're considering. That is because even if the parking lot remained where it was, the new plan has the pathway going all the way around the park. So either the pathway would intersect the parking lot on the west side, or the pathway would intersect the parking lot on the south side. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, Ben?
And we have not presented that with them, but I don't know that they would object to it if we cover the cost of that, but we'll follow up. I mean, they were involved very early in the process with the conceptual planning of the park. But we will certainly circle back and communicate that with them.
And I think it does also align with the concerns of some of their residents with respect to traffic and pedestrian safety as well.
Correct.
All right, any other questions for Laura, or I would entertain a motion? Yeah, Trent?
Mayor, I move the city council override the planning commission's recommendation regarding the Mohawk Park site improvements and approve the recommendation originally outlined in the staff report with the following additional conditions. Number one, that crosswalks be installed at the 67th Street and Lamar intersection, that a crosswalk be installed east of the new parking lot entrance at 67th Street and Beverly. And the last, that universal design concepts be applied in the installation of a new playground equipment in a future phase of Mohawk Park improvements.
A second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Leah? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Audrey, please call roll.
Rihard. Aye. Pring.
Aye.
Inman. Aye. Chosik.
Aye.
Davis. Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas. Loudon.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, we will now move into our committee reports. Councilmember Kring, will you please provide a report from the Finance and Administration Committee?
I will, Mayor. Thank you. The Finance and Administration Committee met on April 6th and considered 2 items. The meeting minutes were approved under the consent agenda, while the assignment of the Mission Bowl Development Agreement will be considered under the regular agenda. The assignment of the Mission Bowl Development Agreement. The Sunflower Development Team is working to finalize its final plat submission and construction financing, which includes a construction loan and private equity raise. In connection with the latter, it will be necessary to form a new project-specific entity, Residents on Rock Creek LLC, to take title to the property and develop the project. Mission Bowl LLC will retain a 30% ownership interest in assignee and remain heavily involved in the management and development of the project. Section 11 of the IRB resolution provides the developer may, with the prior written consent of the city, assign all or a portion of its interest therein to another entity. In connection with the formation of the assignee entity and transfer the property to same, developer desires to assign and assignee desires to assume all of the developer's rights and obligations under the transaction document. Bruce Kimmel of Ellers, Inc. has completed a review and found no concerns with the request. Furthermore, the city's Land Use Council and Bond Council have prepared and/or reviewed the memorandum of agreement, which assigns the redevelopment agreement, and the resolution, which assigns the IRBs, and both are ready for council consideration and action. Both documents are required for the developer to close on the construction financing, which they anticipate doing prior to the end of the month. Therefore, Mayor, I move the City Council authorize the mayor to execute the memorandum of agreement in the IRB resolution assigning the benefits included in the development agreement with Mission Bowl LLC dated December 16th, 2020, and Resolution 1066 to Residents on Rock Creek LLC.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, Audrey, please call roll.
Chosik.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Rihard,
Abstained.
Inman. Kring,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Boltinghouse, will you please provide a report from the committee or Community Development Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Community Development Committee met also on August 6th and considered 3 items. The meeting minutes, along with the purchase of de-icing salt and the task order with GBA were approved under the consent agenda. Also, the special use permit and final plat for Bickford and Mission Springs, as well as the Mohawk Park site improvements were reviewed under the Planning Commission item earlier in the meeting. There are no additional items for consideration on the regular agenda tonight. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. We do not have any unfinished business or new business, and so we'll move into comments from the city council. This is an opportunity for comments from our council members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share tonight? Yes, Debbie?
Just a reminder that we will have a Ward 3 meeting tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at the community center. All members of the community are invited to attend. And we'll have a cleanup this weekend. That's probably going to be in Laura's report, but we do have a city cleanup this Saturday.
Right, yes, Ben?
Up at committee meetings last time, but I just wanted to give recognition to Becky Fast for her leadership on the Is that better? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, just thanks and recognition to Commissioner Becky Fast for her leadership on the solar power issue and the hearing earlier this month. I really recognize that she pushed forward on that and pushed back on some regulations that I thought would be pretty harmful to the county. So wanted to make a note of that here tonight.
Great, thank you. I would second that. And Commissioner Fast is always good about listening to our council and coming and sharing with us county news. So good thoughts. Yes, Ken?
I'd like to do a shout out to the Parks and Rec staff and everybody that was involved in the extravaganza this past Saturday. It was a wonderful event. It was well attended. Quite a show, and I think that Broadmoor was a perfect place to have it. Plus, I'm glad that Penn made sure that the weather was good as well. So kudos to all of you for the work that you did. I'd also like to remind everyone that we're having the Ward 4 open forum on May the 10th. So that's going to be virtual again. So that will be at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Debbie,
Just
another.
one more comment.
Yep.
I can't let this one go. I just want to, Officer Palmieri is back there. Basic recognition for a phenomenal police force and what we have to look forward to. Every night, 4 nights in a row, I got to hear our chief, Dan Madden, talk about the city and how concerned he was for the welfare of our community members and the kids. And I just think we have a phenomenal police force, and I give you all the credence in the world. Thank you so much for your work.
Here, here.
All right, next we will have our council committee liaison reports. These reports were a priority for council and allow the entire governing body to stay up to date with the various activities of the boards, commissions, and committees. First, will council members Kring and Thomas give their report for the Sustainability Commission?
Well, Debbie, we had to reschedule our Sustainability Commission meeting because of the KU game, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous as a K-Stater myself. But so I couldn't attend the rescheduled meeting, but I will note that our upcoming first Climate Action Plan Task Force meeting is coming up here in a couple of weeks, which we're excited about. But Debbie, if you want to update anything else that happened in the meeting.
No, I think we just generally talked about people that were attending the Climate Action Plan meeting and where we are on sustainability and what our next steps are. And is a great meeting. And I would concur that we moved the meeting. So you and I will agree to disagree on that one.
I'm on your team. I will add, sorry, one more thing. I did have a chance to get coffee with Josh Thede just as in his role as chair and as my role as a new liaison for this position, and kind of talk through what we envisioned the relationship looking like in terms of what's worked well with Debbie and Solly in the past and what we'd like to see moving forward. And I think a common theme of something we talked about is how to better connect Sustainability Commission to actual recommendations that we get on our end. And so that's something that I think we're going to be working towards, and open to any ideas that you all might have. Thanks.
Great. Next is council members Loudoun and Rihard for the Parks, Recreation and Tree Commission.
Yeah, apologies if this is lengthy. I feel like PRT's been very busy. But yeah, they had their first that I know of retreat this past Monday, where they spent about an hour kind of discussing things that they want to bring to us, which is really awesome. I'm not going to spoil that, but they have some really cool things baking up there. Jackie Gamison and the Tree ID Plaques Committee has been hard at work creating some Tree ID plaques, finally finalized. They're in production. So I think 3 are going in City Market and 3 are going in Mohawk Park. So I love those in Waterworks. So we're going to kind of see more of those around the city. It's kind of our goal, their goal, to make those happen every year. And then just a lot of other things going on. I don't know if everybody noticed, but the tennis courts have finally been poured. That was something that Pim brought up. They always take time. Yeah. Take time to kind of cover some of the positive improvements that have been happening in the city, which I always like to see and hear. And Taylor's also been hard at work installing a border around the playground in Anderson and French drain pieces too. I also wanted to plug, because this is kind of the time where trees are beautiful and blooming. Please nominate trees for the championship tree program. I have the path that you can go online to do so here. If you wanted to take a look at that, but there's also brochures here in Powell Community Center. But yeah, get those recommendations in. You can also recommend on somebody else's behalf, or not recommend, but submit on their behalf. So yeah, lots going on. They're busy, but it's awesome to see. So yeah.
Has PRT had any discussion about the Bradford pear eradication plans that the county is throwing around? I was just curious if that's come up yet.
I have not heard of that. I don't know if
It just came out.
Yeah, it came out really recently, but I didn't know if it had bubbled up through the tree discussions before that, but. Got it. Next month, coming soon to a meeting near
report on it
you.
next
All right. Next is Councilmember Boltinghouse for the Mission Magazine Editorial Board.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The editorial board met last Wednesday and discussed the in-progress issue that's coming out. And I think, Laura, it's safe to say it'll be a bigger issue this time around, with some expanded content, including a tribute to a longtime Mission resident, and then also some snippets from some of council's recent trip to Washington, D.C., where we attended the National League of Cities Conference. One of the highlights for that trip was a sobering visit to the Ukrainian embassy after hours one night. All of us leaving a little memorial from the city of Mission there. So we got to kind of talk about that and some other things going on that you should be able to see in the magazine going forward. And it's just, I've only been a part of these meetings. This is the 3rd or 4th one now, and I'm just impressed by all the dedication and commitment to everyone on that committee, and just glad to be a liaison with them. It's just always a really interesting hour-long discussion, something I look forward to. So thank you.
Great. And last, we have Councilmember Chosi with the Family Adoption Committee update.
Okay, so yeah, we're still a good ways out from sort of the operational season of the Family Adoption Committee, but I accepted Director Almany's very nice invitation to start meeting and syncing up and just getting information on what's in the works there. Just a few things to note. It sounds like Penn has been contacted to make sure that we're addressing some more specific needs for different families, and specifically concerns maybe about Latinx families that are not necessarily receiving the kinds of things they're looking for as much. So I think the committee may take a look at that when they start meeting in the summer. And until then, that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you. Nothing to report really on my behalf this month. No appointments. But I do actually want to add one thing, which was we had really good staff and council representation at the Climate Action KC Summit. And it was definitely recognized by other attendees. There were a couple different social media posts, both by NGO partners, others about just how good of a showing Mission had. And I think that really is a good sign for our dedication to integrating sustainability across our operations. So good job, everybody. Yes, Ken?
I just have a sad note to relay. I don't know how many of you knew Gertrude Stern. Gertrude Stern was 112 years of age. She was a longtime resident of Countryside, and then she moved into an assisted living center, but she passed away this past month. And so just thought I'd mention that. She's the eldest Kansan that was alive. So she's no longer with us.
All right, next we have our city administrators report. Ms. Smith, do you have any items you'd like to share with the council? And we've got a bit busy coming few days, right?
Yes, busy coming forever. I'm not gonna, unless anybody has any questions about the March interim financial reports, I'm not gonna cover those. We're gonna turn the fire hose on budget on here in a couple of weeks, and you'll get probably more than you ever wanted to hear about budget conversations. Again, still, although we're keeping an eye on use tax in particular, we saw a little bit of a decrease there this month, but overall revenues are tracking on trend with budget expenses as well. So things look good. I do want to say, because I'm sitting here and realizing that we won't be back together again before we send Audrey off on her new adventure. I'm so busy thinking about all the other special presentations. So I do want to just publicly take a moment to say thank you to Audrey for all the work that she's done as city clerk. Coming into this new position. She was part of our mission, family, and the community development department before that, but taking over this role in the midst of the pandemic and trying to track down signatures and manage travel or not travel and conferences and lunches that got rescheduled 800 times and all sorts of things. And she's done a phenomenal job. And so I want to say thank you for that work. We appreciate all you have done. We will miss you. We'll be putting together a little send off next week. I'll make sure everyone knows when that is. But I did just want to say thank you tonight publicly. Along with that, the city clerk has a lot of important responsibilities under our code and through our ordinances. And so in this interim period, it's important to designate someone specifically as an interim city clerk. I have, in consultation with Mr. Martin, I have the ability to make that appointment, and we'll be designating Emily Randall as our interim city clerk effective on April 29th. And until such time as that position is filled. But it was Mr. Martin's recommendation that the council, just so we have a formal record of that appointment, again, because there's lots of city clerk signatures all over legal documents, and we anticipate several of those in this interim period, that the council make a motion just to acknowledge and confirm that. And I did leave that motion. I forgot to include it with earlier today, but I left that at your place. So you might consider that, and then I'll finish up the rest of my list.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the council confirm and acknowledge the city administrator's appointment of Emily Randall as interim city clerk effective April 29th, 2022, and until such time as the city clerk's position can be filled on a permanent basis.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Did just want to thank Audrey for her time with the city. Yeah, Ken?
Yeah, that's the same thing here. Thank you very much for all your service, and we wish you very well. And we look forward to visiting you in Seoul, South Korea at some point in time.
Please come on over.
With that, Audrey, would you please call the roll?
Thomas.
Aye.
Davis. Loudon.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman. And Rihard.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you all.
I do have a question, Mayor. Or Laura.
Yep,
How are we
Debbie.
gonna Emily seems overwhelmed. I mean, she does phenomenal, but she does so much for this city. Are we gonna split up duties? Or is
Yes,
there-
we just need someone who can officially sign. So the majority of this is going to be the responsibility for signing as the city clerk. And we are divvying up the other responsibilities. Some arm wrestling involved, but we'll get it all worked out. Including some coercion of a former city clerk. Okay, I'm going to go through the rest of my list in somewhat of maybe date order. Mostly these are just calendar reminders and things. First of all, thanks to everybody who was able to join us on short notice down at the market site with the Heart this afternoon to meet the artist, Daniel Bartle. Great guy. I think we've mentioned before, he also did the mural at Headless Hands Tattoo on Broadmoor. Just a really engaging individual and great opportunity to just kind of celebrate art. So thank you for indulging me, and I sort of drug Emily along on that, but indulging that whim in the rain. We have tomorrow morning from 10 to 11 a.m. at Legacy Park. We have kind of our card and video celebration for Susie Gibbs. Bagels, juice, water, coffee, donuts. So please come stop by if you're able. I know many of you have already communicated with Susie. In the event of rain, Wellstone has graciously agreed to allow us to come into their community space. So we will have that rain or shine tomorrow morning. Saturday, as Councilmember Kring mentioned, we do have our first citywide cleanup between the groups that have already done some cleanup in their adopted parks or areas. This last week in this, and those who have signed up for the event on Saturday, we've had over 150 people who have been interested and willing to come participate in that event. I think that's fantastic. So we're really looking forward. We do have, we're going to be out picking up trash. So if it's drizzling and a little bit misty, we're going to have this event. So put a ball cap on and throw a rain poncho on and come out. In the event that it is just a torrential rain out, our rain out date is the following Saturday, which I believe is April 30th. So hopefully we'll be able to pull this off on Saturday morning and the weather will cooperate. Next week, Tuesday evening, 6:30 p.m. So April 26th here at the Community Center, Block Development will be hosting a neighborhood meeting on their proposed project at the former JCPenney Call Center site on Fox Ridge, 6:30 p.m. On Wednesday, the 27th at 6:30, we will have a city council work session on Parks and Recreation sales tax renewal, kind of our first conversation surrounding that. You'll recall we'll need to land on specific ballot language by our June meeting. And then for those who had signed up, it's been rescheduled so many times, but Thursday, 11:30 is the State of the Cities luncheon with the Northeast Johnson County Chamber. And I told Deb Settle she may have just jinxed us for our first snow event. We've had snowstorms on the other two rescheduled dates. Just the final thing, I would just piggyback on the comments that were made, and kudos to the Mission Police Department. Some very sad and tragic events, occurred in our community a week ago, but watching our department in cooperation with the Metro Squad move quickly, and an arrest has been made. I think we anticipate more arrests to follow in the future. Just couldn't be prouder, as was already said about the work that they do for our community every day. But we never like to see these kinds of things happen, but when they do, we know we're well equipped to handle those. And I think that is all I have for us this evening.
Yes, Ken?
Laura, I have a question. Has there been any progress in taking care of the gateway flying flags that are?
Yes, and in fact, Mr. Valenti, Matt Valenti and I are having a conversation either tomorrow or Friday to try to accelerate. They've proposed a schedule for that, which I don't think meets with our expectations. So we'll be talking about that later this week.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next will be executive session, but we do not have a need for an executive session this evening. Before we adjourn tonight, I want to share with the public that the video from this meeting will be available through a link on our website, missionks.org. There being no further business tonight, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.